Good morning. I'm Colleen, and my pronouns are she and her. Ray,
Wait, I'm Ray,
yeah,
and my pronouns are he and him. Still,
Ray, when I learned that the November worship focus was going to be generosity, I immediately thought of this book called Decolonizing Wealth. I purchased it 2 or 3 years ago based on my interest in a General Assembly session led by Edgar Villanueva. And he was the author of the book. Now, it sat on my shelf unread until this year when I was trying to find financial advice about values-based investing. I was intrigued by two questions in this book. What if funders could help restore a perfect world? And what if money could be medicine instead of what divides us? Now, the indigenous worldview seeks not to control or own, but to coexist with the land and non-human forms of life. As Derek Rasmussen said, indigenous people believe they belong to the land, and non-indigenous people believe the land belongs to them. Money is medicine. It sounded like a good idea for a message totally in keeping with my interest in the Buy Nothing Project. And so, Ray, you agreed to do this message with me. Why did you say yes? And what did you have in mind?
well, there's a lot of reasons why I said yes. I said yes to you because your inspirational words over the years have helped me see different ways of being and living. And when you mentioned having purchased the Decolonizing Wealth book a few years ago, it struck a chord with me. There are many books on my shelf that if I read and truly reflected on, I would be a much better person. Eventually getting those books out and acting on them is one of the reasons that I said yes to this project. I also said yes because I come from a family without wealth. And we've made some money in my lifetime. We've jumped from lower to middle class, which sometimes makes me feel lucky and privileged, and other times makes me feel like a fish out of water. I was also interested in the decolonizing aspect of the project. Colonizing is different from other types of conquest. Colonizing takes conquest to a level, as Edgar Villanova says, is relative to genocide. What steps can we take as individuals and as a society to repair the wounds of colonization? My parents grew up in the 1940s, New York City, children of very recent immigrants. I grew up in an apartment where rent was subsidized by the state as part of a utopian community, which is a different message altogether. My relationship to money was simple, or so I thought. I wanted to make enough money so I didn't have to look at my bank account when writing my rent check. That was my goal. But money doesn't buy happiness, health, or joy, and it often separates and injures us. How to overcome those divisions and heal with wealth was extremely intriguing, and I'm glad to have taken the first steps along that road.
Well, I want to tell you how much I appreciated our long conversation Monday evening. I had thought we would probably be telling our audience how to be involved in values-aligned investing, but we started telling stories and we landed on a question that surprised me. Villanueva asked, what if money could be medicine? And we asked, what if money could heal the church? We told quite a few stories about money and banking and healing to get to that point. I got to tell my story of standing next to a bank robber. It's stuff good enough to be substance for a number of truth or lies games, right? So it was the night before I had major surgery and I needed a document signed at the bank. So I was waiting at the counter for a notary, and an arm's length away stood a young man who passed a note across the counter and uttered a demand. Well, he fled the direction of I-44 after getting his money, and the bank sent me flowers. And very shortly after that event, banks across the city asked all patrons to remove hats, sunglasses, and hoodies before entering. I am proud to have contributed to your safety. Now think of me the next time you go to a bank. Ray, you have a story about money healing some childhood trauma.
That's true. I like that story about the bank robber. That's crazy. And I did see the sign the other day about hoodies off. When I was 7.5, my family moved from a neighborhood in Brooklyn to an apartment complex on Roosevelt Island, that utopian community. Section 236 subsidized housing required income verification for every lease renewal. And so given my parents' bankruptcy and separation, my mother with 4 children, ages 3 to 13, easily qualified. The move was hard. The separation was harder. My mother worked tirelessly to give us what she could. Mostly it was time and talent, as love was abundant while treasure wasn't. The year after we moved, there was a handheld electronic toy that emulated football with little red dots from Mattel. I actually have it in my pocket. If you could bring me that code, it'd be great. It cost $25, which was a monstrosity amount of money in 1977. And it was a dream of mine to own one. My mother said she couldn't buy it and reminded me several times. I resigned myself to try not to focus on something I wasn't ever going to have. But my mother was adamant that our crumbling family and scarcity would not be the memory I carry forward. On Christmas Day, I was shocked, overwhelmed, overjoyed, over the top that my mother gave me the toy that I dreamed of. A Christmas miracle that warms my heart every time I think of it. A memory that I still hold dearly. In retrospect, I realized that it was hard work, attention to someone else's needs, and a little money can truly help someone in their time of need. Not only did I play that game incessantly, but it also helped build a relationship with my father as we competed for years on the field of little red dots. I asked my mother later on how she was able to do that, and she said she just worked a ton of overtime. She was a secretary at a law firm. And we didn't have much, but my heart was healed through that act of kindness. And money, I know, can be medicine.
So each of us have been impacted by hard times. I had a full-time job teaching school, but I was a single mother with 3 kids and no child support. So my children qualified for free school lunches. I wrote blessings on all of my checks to affirm my hope that there would always be enough money in the bank to cover them. Now, the part of our conversation that really surprised and delighted me is learning that you and I, along with our spouses, think about pledging as a way to make an impact at church. And just maybe we're ready to talk about it. You see, every conversation I've had about money in church ends up about being a conversation about how money divides and separates us. And also, our conversations tend to be about how we can use money to heal those outside our church community, the homeless, the unhoused, the jobless, the disaster-stricken. What if we use money to heal our church?
I think that's a very important concept. What does our congregation need that not only keeps the doors open and the lights on, but to thrive as a community? What can we add instead of we need to cut when it comes to our budget? And for that to happen, we need to make investments in the future of UU, all 3 T's, time, talent, and treasure. As a New Yorker, we often talk about what our rent costs, how much money we make, what things cost, etc. It's a very different lifestyle. Living there is expensive, and I often joke it costs $100 a day just to wake up in New York City. And so while talking about money all the time may not be the healthiest way to think about it, it does make it easier to discuss. And so I'm ready for that. And that's why I want to be financial secretary. So
back to the book. Now, it's a stretch to apply the message of the book to divisions here at First UU. After all, the intention of the book is to address the power imbalance in financial networks, focusing on philanthropic foundations. One major theme is the concept of a colonial virus, which is part of the fabric of Western culture. To quote the book, "We must heal ourselves by each taking responsibility for our part in creating or maintaining the colonial virus. Instead of divide, control, exploit, we embrace a new paradigm of connect, relate, and belong." What follows is our attempt to use the book's 7 steps of healing to move us from divide and control to connection, relationship, and belonging. Ray and I have tried to word the actionable items in each step in such a way that the steps can be relatable to both sides in our recent divisions.
the first step is breathe. Stopping and telling stopping and feeling the hurts we've endured and the injuries we may have caused. We can also grieve about realizing that we are not one of the good ones. Our need for each other is inescapable, so we may as well acknowledge each other's trauma and engage in healing together. Next, we apologize for the hurts we've caused, which turns from the inward focus of grief to the outward focus of the others who were harmed. Some frameworks for apologizing include, I apologize for the ignorance of the harm I've caused you. I apologize for my unconscious bias. I apologize for all the times I've judged you. Third is listen. Acknowledging, quote, the wisdom of those excluded and exploited by the system who possess exactly the perspective and wisdom needed to fix it. Those who have been injured are the ones who know how to fix. Jennifer Buffett of Novo Foundation told Villanueva, if you want to learn, you have to give up talking. Mr. Buffett's Peter husband added from a white male perspective, I've had this wonderful privileged life, he said. Lucky, so I shouldn't be the one saying, here's how to solve the problem. The people who are experiencing it should say that. Transformational change will always require challenging conversations about us, not a monologue about helping them.
I'm impressed by the leadership of Springfield Tenants Unite, also known as STUN. People affected by substandard housing, including the unhoused, are trained to be leaders and conduct outstanding meetings. Now, the fourth step is relate, sharing our whole selves with each other and understanding that we don't have to agree in order to respect each other. Relationships are our greatest asset here. That is true in this church, and that's how we will become stronger moving forward.
And the fifth step is represent. It means building new decision-making spaces. It means having a board that reflects our community. People who make the decisions about where money goes should have, quote, intimate, authentic knowledge of the issues and communities involved. Jordan Flaherty, in his book, No More Heroes, writes, quote, for people born into privilege, decentering yourself can feel difficult. It involves giving up a certain amount of privilege. Villanueva adds, when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. As a cis white man, this has been a hard one to fully incorporate, and I continue to work on this moving forward authentically as possible and not performatively.
Then there's investing. Put all our money where our values are. For us at First UU, it means we must complete the work we've begun on determining our values. For me individually, it means learning more about impact investing, moving beyond do no harm to exploring how to do more good. I'm currently reading Activate Your Money, Invest to Grow Your Wealth and Build a Better World. The book suggests starting an investment club to explore options, no matter how little or much you have to invest. I'll be looking for people to join me.
I think I will join you on that one. And as a financial secretary, I'm looking for people to join together to make additional investments in UU. My experience with money in church goes back to my time as a Catholic altar boy. Once a year, a priest would give a financial review. One time it fell on Easter Sunday. It felt wrong to mix money with the Holy Catholic Apostolic Church, but it did bring one point home that lingers. Even churches require money to function. Now, as financial secretary, I'm going to do my best to make sure we have the money we need to thrive and not just stay afloat. One question I asked myself this week was, what would I spend to create a place like First UU? What would it cost? Think about that for a second. A beautiful building with acreage, an inclusive space that is authentic and honest, a group of diverse people who love and support each other and invite new people with open arms. There is no amount of money that can provide what we already have. It is the time, the talent, and the people that make up this place. You can't buy any of that. You can buy faster internet, but you can't purchase a First UU. There's no eBay listing or Amazon store with the First UU for sale. It is special and precious in every sense of the word, priceless. We do know, however, what is spent already, decades of effort, countless drops of sweat, and millions of dollars since the group's inception. And we know the current costs. We have a budget to vote on in December that details exactly what it will cost moving forward. And we're at a shortfall. We are at a shortfall, and money as medicine is sorely needed. I know if this place goes away, I'd miss it dearly. We all would. And if we took drastic steps to have that balanced budget, we might think less of this place. According to one draft budget, we need to get rid of programming all programming, and even that leaves a shortfall. So how many people can we help with our investments? How many people have already been helped by First UU? And who will be that next person or group that we help to impact our society at large? That is the kind of investment that is part of the decolonizing process, bless you, where instead of divide, control, and exploit, we serve the needs of the community and the goals of connecting, relating, and belonging.
And Ray, here's our cue to all the people listening to us in other spaces. Finally, there's repair. At First UU, repair refers to fully funding programs, practices, and equipment to support people, particularly to serve those who have been marginalized. We need to expand our services and programs to impact our society, both within and outside the church. Addressing the question of how money can be used to heal our church means we will have a more aggressive response to the Congregational Relief Fund. It means we will pay our staff well. It also means we can find the money to hire people to work downstairs to meet faith formation and childcare needs and not depend always on volunteers or members.
With its focus on connection and belonging, the Indigenous worldview often offers inspiration for the way forward. We as humans have given money its value of exchange, and so we have the power to change how we utilize it. We can use money as medicine. Thank you.
Blessed be. Amen.
Amen.